How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Mike. Today I'm going to tell you the story of how I started my first business at the age of 9. Now, for many of you who may have watched my video of 0 to millionaire at 25, you have some of my background story. So if you're new to the channel, my name is Mike. I grew up in a place called Lagos, Nigeria. I grew up in a very modest environment, so to speak. I was not poor, but I was middle class, or what you would call middle class in Nigeria, which is, when you compare it to the United States, it's different, but still I had a good life. But I went to school with a lot of rich kids. That's what I remember. I went to a very good school. Not sure how my parents could afford that school, but I can imagine that my dad had to work his butt off to pay my school fees. Anyway, when I was 9 years old, at school, so in Nigeria school system, it's different from what you have, say, in the UK. Actually, it's probably the same as the UK, but very different from what you have in the United States. For example, in the US, in middle school, high school, you generally would go from room to room to take your classes, whereas it's the opposite in Nigeria, where you have your homeroom is where you would stay the entire day, and then you get 2 breaks, one short one, one long one. So the freedom you would have when you had lunch break was that you could either go out and get something to eat or go about your business, or you can just remain in the classroom and hang out with some friends. And that was the case today. One of my classmates brought a toy gun to class. I remember during break, he just brought it out, and obviously, like anything else that's bad, all of us as kids were just attracted to it, and we wanted to know what that was. He brought this thing out and he pulled the trigger, and we heard pow, pow. And that, for me, that was just the most exciting thing. Now, if you're trying to imagine what I'm talking about, they're called toy cap guns, and you can still find them on Amazon or anywhere today. They're basically these revolvers, okay, and they come with like pellet or powder bullets, and so you have like a cylinder, and you put that in the revolver, and once you pull the trigger, it makes like a really interesting, exciting noise, at least to a kid. And I remember we were all just over that thing the entire day, or the rest of the day. So after school, I went up to this kid and I just grilled them on where on earth he got this toy from. And honestly, I don't even remember what the story he told me or where he got it from, but I remember just being determined to find out where to get one. And so the weekend came by and I decided to go to the marketplace to find this thing. Now, if you've ever been to a place like Nigeria, they're like little marketplaces all around different towns. And generally the way the marketplace looks like, you just go to wherever the marketplace is, and it's just miles of you walking, and you can find just about anything you want, okay, from clothing to food to toys and so on and so forth. At this time, I was living in a place called Ejigbo, Lagos, and I was living with my grandmother, and they had a marketplace that was close by, about 15 or 20 minutes ride. So I jumped on the bus and I went to the marketplace, and I just started walking, and I walked and walked and walked and walked. And long and behold, I found a vendor that was selling exactly these guns. So I approached, but what was more exciting was that I found the same gun or the same toy that this kid brought to school, but I also found different styles and different models. He had like 2 or 3 different ones. I had the standard one, which was black. It was a standard barrel. And then he had the silver one that looked so pretty, okay, and it had a longer barrel to it. And I said, okay, I want that and I want that. He told me that the cost for these toys were 120 Naira. So 120 Naira at that time, guys, this was over 20 years ago. And I imagine that time also the currency conversion, if you want to convert it to dollars, 120 bucks now is maybe worth 40 cents, but back then it was probably worth about $1. Either way, that was a lot of money, even for a kid. And I remember saying to the guy, like, hey, give me 3 of those. So I basically bought each style or each model of that toy gun. Now you can ask yourself, where did I get the money? Well, I used to get allowance from my parents whenever I would go to school, but I would save it. I would basically starve myself and come home and eat. And so I would save whatever money I get from my parents, and I use that to buy other things that I want. And that's how I got the money to basically buy these toy guns. So I bought 3 models, and I remember the next week I took them to school, and it happened just like I imagined. The kids were all over it, and guys, before the day was over, I sold all 3. And I remember just thinking to myself, like, wow, this is money. This is opportunity right here. Not only that, I sold them for 240 Naira. So basically made 100% profit on these things. And I basically came up with the price because I was the only market. It was like a monopoly. Nobody else could have thought about it. And so if you know anything about kids, the word basically traveled fast. I would go back and forth to this marketplace. And now what I would do, because the marketplace was basically on the way back home. So rather than stop at where I would normally stop, I would just take the bus all the way to the market, pick up a few more toy guns, and then go home and then bring it to school the next day and just sell and sell and sell. So this happened for a few months there, at least while the semester was going on. And I remember just making a bunch of money selling these things. And again, it got so much that I didn't have enough supply to meet the demand. And honestly, at 9 years old, I didn't understand the concept of supply and demand. If I did, I probably could have charged more for these toys, but I was already making more than enough. And at 9 years old, I didn't really have anything I wanted to buy. What I do remember was that year, during Christmas, I bought my first game console. It was called Sega Mega Drive. May not know about it here in the US, but in Nigeria, that was the thing. We didn't really have PlayStation back then. We had the Nintendo Game Boy, and then we had that. And the Nintendo Game Boy was way outside of what I could afford. So I bought my first Sega Mega Drive, and that was everything. That was everything to 9 years old Mike. Honestly, when I think about that experience now, I feel like I've always had the knack to recognize opportunities. And when I think of everything else that I've done since then, it almost feels like I just stumble into opportunities. Or perhaps I recognize things that maybe the average eye doesn't see, or maybe they saw it and didn't act towards it. But that's really how I've approached just about every other businesses that I've been involved in since then. And again, I feel like I had been doing some of these things before I even knew what they were. And if you've been watching my videos, you understand this concept, or you've heard me repeat this concept of arbitrage. This is exactly the same thing. The same concept that I was applying here is basically I buy from one retailer, and not at wholesale price, by the way. I was buying at retail price, but because there was no market at the school. Basically, I was the only person selling these toys. I was able to create the market and create the price. I basically set whatever price that I wanted without anyone fighting me on it or competing with me on it. And so this is the same concept of arbitrage. Hope you guys learned something. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. Thank you so much for watching. Also, make sure you subscribe with the notification bell on. Guys, please share this video and leave your comments below, and I will catch you on the next video. Peace.